Hello boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, this is Defub21 and yet another reaction trailer to a new, reaction video to a new trailer that's come out. This is for the game Adrift, Moonlight trailer. Again, this has been, I'm going to comment on this in a specific comment video, this has been a very atypical run up to E3. Usually the first, the 2 or 3 weeks leading up to E3 tend to be very, very quiet. For new game trailers and other reveals of new games, but this year it's been, compared to previous ones, been absolutely manic. Anyway, let's have a look at this video and we'll watch the video and then I'll give my comments on it. Right, bloody hell. Let's replay that there with the sound off. Get rid of damn banner. Well, I've seen this video before. The name for the game didn't ring a bell with me. I think I saw, well, not this trailer, but something this game before. Last E3, if I remember correctly. Gravity was a movie that really pushed my buttons, both because I like science fiction as well / real space stuff on one side, and two, I'm not a big fan of heights. So really kind of, as you can imagine, that's the biggest heights of all. Yeah, this looks, I think this is, I think some of the footage I saw last year, I think last E3, may have been in-game. I'm not sure if this is. I mean, it is Unreal Engine 4. It is very visually impressive. And while a lot of the kind of next-gen console games that come out on PS4 and Xbox One have not been, certainly there's been something of a gap. I mean, Witcher 3 is a current example between the PC and the console version in terms of visuals. If the last generation of consoles or anything to go by, I mean, if you compare an early or even launch window title for the 360 like Cameo as a prime example, compared to a late 360 game like a prime example would be Halo 4, the quality of the graphics, the visuals increased very, very dramatically over what was the longest console generation in the history of the industry. And the developers really kind of got to grips with the hardware last gen. Now, if we assume, I think we can still assume, that this generation will be at least as long, 7-8 years, or thereabouts. Although I'd say on a new console generation, unless maybe there might well be, because if it's a long generation, there may be something of a turnaround in Xbox One's fortunes. But I'd say if they continue to lag behind, I'm not going to say Microsoft's going to dump the Xbox One after 4 years. I'd be furious if they did that. I'd say 6 years maybe, and 7 years definitely they'll switch to a new console generation. But as it stands, a lot of the kind of second generation console games, those that came out even first generation console games that came out in 05, Elder Scrolls Oblivion was a much better looking game than any version of any first, with the possible exception of Condemned Criminal Origins. Oblivion was much better looking than any launch window game for the 360. I mean, the more recent Dead Rising games visually looked much better than the first Dead Rising that came out in 06. And if that trend kind of continues, we may well be this may well be representative in terms of visuals of what we get on console hardware. I'm not completely convinced of that for no other reason than it's coming out this year. Although again, the Xbox One, the PS4 came out, were launched again at holiday 2013. So at this stage, we assume end of year this year this comes out. Then, or near the end of the year, then we're looking at close to, at that stage, 2 years the system has been on the market. And this is crucially, unlike a lot of the games that came out for the Xbox One, the PS4 so far, this is a current gen console and PC game only, so there's no 360 or PS3 version. That being said, there are, possibilities. I mean, one of the reasons the game's visuals may look so good is because, maybe there have been specific compromises. Maybe there's very little AI in the game because there's no real characters. You're just on your own. That could be it. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, effectively, someone's obviously looked at Gravity and said, we can make a game like this, or based on that or influenced by that. And that could be really kind of cool. This may end up being kind of a first person, no guns, no shooting, survival horror game in a science fiction setting. The same kind of way that, with a big AAA budget, the same way that Alien Isolation has been, which again I've got on Xbox One. I've already got around to doing some videos and recording them. But again, I'm not terribly convinced this is exclusively in-game footage and not pre-rendered CGI. PC version maybe, but I mean, if Witcher 3 looks great on PC, I've got a GTX 970 and it looks great, and it's particularly graphics intensive rather than processor intensive game. Although if you've got advanced physics in this, I would imagine it would eat up processor resources even on PC, unless you got a serious rig. But I'd be very impressed if the game looked that good on a decent PC rig, let alone the consoles. Very impressed indeed. But the concept alone, like Alien Isolation, really, that's very kind of frankly brave. I mean, Alien Isolation was a very brave game from an industry standpoint. People don't make AAA games like Alien Isolation. Again, I haven't played it from reading the reviews and all the rest. Although again, Sega considered it a failure. Although I think a lot of the copies they end up selling at a severe discount. But that's another topic for another day. So yeah, looks, if that's in game or on PS4, let alone Xbox One, then visually it's at say 30 frames a second, then that's fantastic. Looks fantastic. Whether we'll actually get anything like that realistically in terms of in-game, that's a different situation entirely. There's been something of a backlash of late, Witcher 3 being a prime victim of it, where people have been saying, this doesn't look anything like the trailers you showed us. The same situation with Watch Dogs, and this could also be a victim of that as well. But again, yeah, let's just look back there. Xbone, PS4, Steam, Unreal Engine 4. It's it's not last gen at all. Another thing I would say, kind of, maybe in the defense of this actually being in game, is the fact that in comparative terms, the current consoles aren't just more advanced than the last gen systems, but they're easier to develop for. They don't have pipeline architecture graphics chips, which had major problems in inherent bottlenecks that the PS3 and to a lesser degree the 360 had. They've got their processors, graphics function, memory controller function all on the same chip, so memory latency is nowhere near as bad, and that affects processor performance quite significantly. You got an awful lot more RAM. Again, if particularly, I mean, in terms of design, this game, if there's negligible AI in it, which would allow for more resources for physics, and if that's kind of, what you're seeing here is kind of representative to a degree as to how quickly you can move the screen, then a very low frame rate, which would allow for streaming of assets, as much assets as possible, might well be easier than it would be under a 60 frame a second type game. But again, we'll see. I could natter on about this. Yes, definitely. Right. That looks good. That would certainly be on my pay attention list. I assume the proof will be in the pudding. I assume we'll get gameplay come E3, which is, at this time of recording is technically it's starting on Sunday with the Bethesda press conference, so technically it's only a few days away. I'm so excited. But yeah, this looks cool. So again, this is Defub21. If you like this video, I'll leave a link to one of my other videos. Have a look at that video. When I get another reaction trailer, and there'll be a few links in that video too to other reaction videos I've done. If you like that, look at the others, and if you like them, please subscribe to my channel. This is Defub21 signing off. Toodaloo.